For decades, even Elvis himself couldn't agree on the answer. In one interview, he called one song his biggest seller. On stage, he joked that another one just sold the most. Fans have argued about it for over 60 years. Record historians still can't fully settle it. Today, we're finally counting down the real numbers, from smallest to the one single that outsold everything else Elvis Presley ever released. And the answer might not be the song you're expecting. In the 14th place, a slashing opening guitar riff announced a brand new era of American music. Carl Perkins wrote the track, but Elvis Presley transformed it into a rockabilly declaration of war. On April 3, 1956, Elvis walked onto the stage of the Milton Berle Show, delivering a performance of blue suede shoes so physically explosive it shocked television viewers nationwide. This raw national exposure triggered a massive buying frenzy, driving original release sales of the single over the 2 million copy milestone. While those physical numbers are smaller than the massive sellers appearing later on the countdown, its real value lay in defining the wardrobe, attitude, and rebellious sound of a newly born generation. Number 13. A swinging saxophone groove immediately sets the stage for a track that represents the peak efficiency of the movie-era hit machine. Written for the soundtrack of the film Girls, 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 this polished pop recording traded raw, rebellious rockabilly for mass commercial appeal. At its core is a deceptively simple story of a returned letter, a clever hook that listeners could not get out of their heads. The calculation paid off. The single logged a massive radio life, achieved platinum status, and earned reported worldwide shipments of over 2.5 million copies, proving that a cleaner, catchier sound could conquer the global mainstream. In the 12th place, a quiet acoustic guitar replaces the wild, hip-shaking swagger, marking the exact moment Elvis Presley reinvented himself from a dangerous rebel into a romantic crooner. Built upon the haunting melody of the Civil War-era ballad Aurelia, this intimate track proved that his vocal range stretched far past raw rockabilly. The commercial impact of this softer style was immediate and staggering. Before the single was even pressed, fans generated unprecedented sellout demand, pushing pre-orders past the historic 1 million milestone. This massive wave of early orders secured Presley an RIAA gold record before the song even debuted on the radio, proving his staying power and showing that he could conquer the mainstream pop charts just as easily as he dominated rock and roll. Number 11. A playful, looping accordion riff and a toy-like German music box tempo completely rewrite the traditional rock and roll playbook. Recorded during the transition period of Elvis's military service in Germany, this multilingual novelty track, adapted from a traditional folk song, captured a massive global audience that many American fans completely overlook. While the record remained relatively obscure on domestic radio, it triggered an unprecedented retail restocking frenzy across the United Kingdom, where pressing plants constantly fell behind the intense European demand. Driven by this staggering overseas popularity, the single went on to secure over 3 million copies in physical sales, proving that his commercial power could easily cross international borders and dominate foreign markets even when the home country barely registered a hit. In the 10th place, a heavy, mournful acoustic guitar line cuts through the silence, announcing that Elvis Presley's late 1960s return was built on creative survival rather than mere nostalgia. This gritty, socially conscious record confronts the cycle of poverty and hopelessness on the cold streets of Chicago, marking a stark thematic shift for an artist who had spent years trapped in lightweight Hollywood movie soundtracks. Listeners worldwide connected strongly with the raw, emotional weight of his performance, driving physical single sales close to the 3 million copies milestone. This grim realism completely resurrected his commercial power during the famous 1969 Memphis sessions, earning him a major global hit and proving that his voice could still capture the turbulent social spirit of a changing nation far past the easy pop of his previous decade. Number 9. A solemn, echoing organ swell and a stark, reverent vocal performance replaced the usual rock and roll swagger. Recorded in 1960, this raw, openly religious gospel track remained locked in RCA vaults for 5 years due to a bitter contract dispute. By the time it was eventually pulled from the shelf in 1965, industry insiders had completely written off explicitly spiritual material as commercially dead. They were instantly proven wrong. This quiet hymn blindsided the music business, emerging as a surprise commercial hit and triggering a massive buying wave that pushed physical sales close to the 2 million copy milestone. Its impact lies in this pure commercial shock, proving that Presley's vocal power could turn a traditional church ballad into a massive mainstream force that defied every market expectation. Number 8. A galloping guitar riff charges through the speakers, instantly restoring a sense of speed and pure urgency that many fans feared Elvis Presley had left behind in the 1950s. Recorded live in the room on March 28, 1972, inside RCA's Studio C, this track captured a raw, explosive energy that could not be manufactured. With legendary guitarist James Burton driving the tempo and Ron Tutt pounding the drums, the session proved that the heavy rock and roll fire still burned brightly beneath the glitzy jumpsuits of his 70s stage show. The music-buying public responded with incredible force, driving shipments to nearly 3 million copies. The single stormed its way up to peak at number 2 in America, marking his final major rock and roll assault on the mainstream charts. It remains a powerful, late-career reminder of his raw physical force, delivering a blistering, high-octane performance that shook the airwaves. Number 7. A heavy, pitch-black silence envelopes the studio, broken only by the quiet acoustic strumming of a melancholic melody. Recorded almost entirely in total darkness at the direct request of his manager, this track captures a level of exposed vulnerability that Presley had never previously shown on record. The atmosphere in the room was so thick that the weighted silence before his vocal begins feels almost physical. When Elvis transitions into the famous spoken word section, his intimate stage whisper delivery stunned the recording engineers behind the mixing console, who watched the needles jump in the gloom as he poured his feelings into the microphone. It remains one of his most emotionally raw performances, stripped of all rock and roll bravado or movie star polish. This haunting late-night gamble paid off on a global scale. The stark, fragile ballad connected directly with listeners worldwide, ultimately driving more than 5 million physical copies sold internationally and dominating global charts. This quiet masterpiece proved that restraint could be just as commercially powerful as his loudest rock anthems. 6th place, a driving, urgent guitar riff and a building, brassy horn section immediately establish a sense of modern, paranoid tension, grabbing the listener's attention right from the opening beat. This was the sound of the legendary 1969 Memphis sessions, where a revitalized artist fought to reclaim his crown with raw, soul-infused rock and roll. Past the incredible musical energy, this track carries one of the most famous production tricks in pop history. The producer engineered a deliberate late-stage fade-out that leads the listener to believe the song has ended, only for the rhythm to slowly build back up over a looping groove. This unusual arrangement famously fooled radio jockeys across the country, keeping listeners glued to their receivers. The bold sonic gamble paid off. The single racked up reported shipments of 4.5 million physical copies, marking its status as a massive global success. Most notably, this masterpiece stood as Elvis's final #1 hit on the American charts, capping his historic run at the summit of the pop world. Number 5. A slow, dragging blues piano and a heavy bass line turn raw, empty isolation into a massive commercial detonation. This track marked the explosive big bang of Elvis's major label career with RCA, but the eerie inspiration behind the song gave it a disturbing backstory to match its heavy sonic impact. According to label lore, songwriters Mayborn Axton and Tommy Durden were inspired by a newspaper report of a lonely man who leaped to his death, leaving a note with the single phrase, "I walk a lonely street." Though historians have searched archives for decades and never found the original article, the myth added to the track's dark mystique. Even RCA producer Steve Scholes initially worried the recording sounded like a morbid mess, but the public disagreed. It shattered existing sales records, driving massive demand that resulted in a gold record certification on April 14, 1956, marking Presley's first official million-selling single. While some later accounts claim shipments eventually crossed 4 million copies, its real power was launching a cultural phenomenon. Number 4. A gentle, cascading piano melody ripples through the quiet, carrying a tender warmth that instantly softens the room. This is the unmistakable opening of a cinematic ballad that expanded far past its movie soundtrack origins. Originally adapted from a classic 1784 French love song for the film Blue Hawaii, this track became the emotional anchor of Elvis's live performances, serving as his definitive concert closer throughout his touring years. The physical shipments of this recording are staggering, easily topping 6 million copies worldwide and earning a platinum status that cements its position as a global giant. Yet, as this beautiful ballad finishes, it pushes us directly into a commercial maze where the math gets incredibly complicated. To understand the final contenders, we must step past simple fandom and enter a world where the definition of the biggest hit completely splits. From here, every single number depends entirely on how the ledgers are counted, turning a straightforward sales debate into a forensic battlefield over double-sided records and global versus domestic totals. Coming to the top 3, a sharp, steady snare drum backbeat and a warm, rhythmic bass line introduce a recording that cannot be understood apart from its double A-side status. Released in July 1956, this classic track became part of one of the most successful vinyl singles ever pressed, paired directly with another massive rock and roll juggernaut on its flip side. Together, they generated around 6 million domestic copies sold, creating an unstoppable retail force that filled American household record players. On the Billboard charts, this specific side claimed the #1 spot for an incredible 11 consecutive weeks, establishing a historic rock-era record that stood unchallenged for 36 years. Its commercial power was so immense that Elvis himself often poked fun at the runaway success during his later live performances, jokingly telling concert audiences that it was not necessarily his best song, it just sold the most. Yet, while its chart run and massive domestic shipments are solidly documented, the track represents only one half of a larger physical vinyl unit, holding back the final verdict on the combined single as a whole. In second place, a soaring operatic vocal line sweeps over a gently swaying mandolin rhythm, capturing the exact moment Elvis Presley conquered the global music market. Recorded in 1960, shortly after his return from military service, this grand ballad adapted its sweeping melody from the classic 1898 Neapolitan standard O Sole Mio. The result was his most massive international triumph, triggering unprecedented retail demand across Europe, where it spent 8 weeks at the top of the British charts and earned a rare million-selling gold certification in Germany. Yet, the sheer scale of this success is exactly why it stops before the very top. While some official certifications confirm millions of shipments, global sales estimates fluctuate wildly, ranging from a conservative 5 million to more than 20 million copies worldwide due to missing overseas ledger sheets. During a famous 1961 Memphis press conference, Elvis himself directly named this track as his biggest-selling record of all time. But music historians and forensic auditors argue that when we isolate audited, verified domestic ledger evidence, the true commercial crown belongs to a different contender. This gorgeous love song stands as a monumental global giant, but the ultimate numbers game pushes the real victor into a category all its own. And finally, in first place, a frantic drum roll and a wild, throat-shredding scream fired a warning shot directly into the heart of 1950s America. This is the undisputed giant of physical record sales, the double A-side powerhouse of Hound Dog and Don't Be Cruel. Released in July 1956, this single piece of vinyl became an unstoppable retail force, shipping more than 10 million copies in the United States alone. While casual fans often assume the crown belongs to later movie ballads or international pop hits, music historians and forensic auditors point directly to audited ledger books to settle the debate. Together, these two tracks became Elvis's most dominant physical release, locking down the #1 spot on the Billboard charts for an incredible 11 consecutive weeks. A historic rock-era record that stood unchallenged for 36 years. Although the RIAA officially recognizes a 4 million unit multi-platinum certification, the original RCA internal shipping ledgers proved the true scale of its retail dominance, placing it far beyond any other single in his catalog. By focusing on verified physical record dominance rather than unverified global estimates, the numbers reveal a truth that many listeners do not expect, proving that the raw, rebellious sound that first shocked the nation remains his ultimate commercial triumph. Which of these legendary tracks surprised you the most? Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into music history. Across all 14 entries, one truth emerges. Music history isn't defined by nostalgia, but by cold, hard data. While fans favor emotional ballads, the RCA ledgers prove that Elvis's raw, early rock and roll remains his undisputed commercial peak. The numbers don't lie, even when the myths do. Which song's ranking surprised you the most? Subscribe for more deep dive music investigations.